Salutations, crustaceans. I'm Lobster, and today we are reviewing the Sire M2, the entry-level bass in the Sire M series. Let's check this thing out. This is the M2 from Sire, featuring a mahogany body finished in a beautiful flat black in a MTD-esque shape, paired with a maple neck and a rosewood fretboard. The neck is a 35-inch scale as opposed to a 34-inch for the 4-string, and you have 24 frets here. This is a fully featured bass for the price of $450 for the 5-string in this particular black finish, or $400 for the 4-string. Featuring a pair of Marcus Miller blue humbuckers, as well as Sire's own Marcus Miller preamp. This is the same knob-heavy preamp that you find in the V3, however it is a bit more spaced out here, whereas these controls are all crammed onto the Jazz control plate in the V3 bass. For controls, you have a stacked master volume and master tone, a blend control, a treble control, a stacked mid control with a mid-frequency sweep, and a bass control. And then you have a preamp bypass switch back here. So this bass is looking to give you a lot of tonal possibilities and a more modern design as opposed to the V3, which is a vintage jazz bass style. For hardware, we have a standard Sire 5-string bridge. This one has a more conventional screw layout. This bridge also features a string-through option, so you can pass the strings through the body of the guitar if you so choose. I have it strung up that way with MJC Ironworks 45 to 125 nickel-plated stainless steel strings, regular long scale, and they fit without issue. And as for the tuners, we have some lightweight Godot-style tuners at the headstock, 5 of them in a 2 and 3 configuration. Now, let's turn this thing around and check out the backside. Here you can see that the neck is well attached with 5 well-spaced screws, and then you have a standard-sized control cavity. Down at the bottom you can see the string ferrules where the strings are strung through the body, and you have the battery compartment up top. Now unfortunately this is not a battery door. You have to remove 4 screws in order to get access to the battery. I wish that was just a little latched door there for an easy battery swap. The back of the neck has a nice satin finish, and you can see a little bit of a flame in the maple as well. This is good maple. Now I want to give a big shout out to my friend and friend of the channel, Bully the Kid, for sending me this bass. This is his personal M2. I really appreciate you sending it over. That's what we do, we send basses back and forth, so this is one of his, and thank you, Bully. Now I know you guys are wondering, what does this thing sound like? You guys know what you need to do. Go ahead and pinch that like button so my hand will turn back to normal. Thanks. Very nice, very nice. So, as I mentioned before, this is a 35-inch scale neck. I believe this might be one of the cheapest 35-inch scale basses that you can get for a 5-string, and that's really nice. This bass feels very different than the Sterling SUB 5 double humbucker, which this directly competes with at the $450 price point. That has a 34-inch scale neck and much tighter spacing, whereas this actually has 19mm spacing at the bridge. Very wide. That's neither a positive nor a negative, as it is a personal preference whether or not you want the wide spacing or the narrower spacing. I personally don't mind it either way, though I do find the 19mm spacing very comfortable in this application. The neck profile is a modern C shape and fits nicely in the hand. I really like the neck on this bass. It's very easy to navigate, and overall, very, very comfortable neck. This is the 2nd generation of the M2, so it does feature a few added features like the rolled fret ends, which aren't present on the 1st generation. We are going to be doing a separate video looking at the differences between the 1st and 2nd gen, as Bully sent me his 1st gen one as well. So thanks again, Bully. Now, there's a lot of different tonal possibilities here with this preamp. You have 2 pickups to choose from, as well as the combination of both. You have a master tone control, as well as a 3-band preamp with the mid sweep. So there's a ton of tonal possibilities here. And if you don't even want to deal with the preamp, you actually have a bypass to just deal with the passive controls. So let's start out with the neck pickup. Here's that in passive mode with the tone at 100%. Now let's bring the tone to about 50%. And here's the tone all the way down. So as I mentioned in my V7 review, the passive tone control here really doesn't do that much, at least for what you'd expect a tone control to do. I would expect the tone control to darken up the tone quite a bit more than it does here, so I'd hope that they would improve that in the future. The passive Sires that I've tried, both the V5 as well as the U5, do not have this issue. Their tone controls work perfectly. It's just on this preamp, from what I've experienced, the tone control is not that great. Now let's move over to the bridge pickup. Not bad. Honestly, I don't really think these pickups sound that good, and I've never really been a fan of this preamp. I think it offers a lot of different controls, but at the same time, I think a more simple layout, especially for an entry-level instrument, would be more appropriate. That's just my opinion. A lot of people love this preamp. I am personally not a fan of the preamp here. I also think that even with the tone control at 100%, the sound of this bass is a bit almost muffled, if you will. There's a distinct lack of clarity in high end. So I hope that they would improve that perhaps in a future iteration of this bass. I have not played the M5 or the M7, and I know that those have some different electronics. I have yet to try those, and I'm hoping to do so in the future, so stay tuned. Now let's turn down the tone to about 50%. And here's the tone all the way down. And here's the tone all the way down. Now let's bring the neck pickup back into the mix and listen to both of them together with the tone at 100%. One thing that I really have to mention here, the B string on this bass is very solid. It sounds very good and it feels good as well. It's definitely not floppy and it definitely has a lot of definition. That being said, that definition is impacted a little bit by the preamp and pickups, which again, I'm not really a fan of here. Let's go ahead and turn the tone to about 50%, see what that sounds like. Now here's the tone all the way down. Okay, now let's go ahead and bring the preamp into the mix. I'm going to leave the tone at 100% and we'll leave the pickup selector centered, and let's play with this preamp a bit. Here's what it sounds like centered. Now let's go ahead and bring everything down to full cut. As I mentioned, this bass does have a variable mid sweep, and that comes into effect when you're either boosting or cutting the mid control. And since we're at full cut, let's see what sort of impact this has. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there in the center. Now let's boost the treble first. Here's the treble at center with everything else cut. And let's boost the treble all the way. It is a bit on the harsh side. Let's go ahead and cut that and bring the bass up to center. And here's the bass boosted to about 50%. Yes, yes, at 50%, it's starting to overload my amp a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and back down on that. Let's cut the bass and bring the mids up to center now. At center, the mid sweep, it doesn't really impact the tone at all. That's only at boost and cut. Yeah, not doing anything. So here's just the mids at center, everything else cut. And here's the mids boosted to, let's call it 100%. Now, let's bring everything back up to center and see how she slaps. This definitely is a very good bass for slapping. The wide spacing allows you to really get your thumb in there and not accidentally hit other strings, though that is also a technique issue. So if you like the wider spacing, this is definitely a good entry-level 5-string bass. However, if it's tighter spacing that you want, I would probably look at the Sterling by Music Man Ray 5 SUB with the double humbuckers. I did a review on that early on in the channel, so feel free to check out that video, and we will be revisiting that bass, perhaps with one of the new finishes in the near future. And finally, let's throw some drums behind this. So here are my final thoughts on the Sire M2 5-string. Overall, this is a feature-packed instrument, especially for the $450 that you pay for it. However, not all of those features, in my opinion, are the most usable. Especially on the electronic side of things, I think this bass is spreading itself a bit thin. Construction-wise, this bass feels excellent, though in regards to fit and finish, it is only average. You may have noticed that there's what appears to be a binding around the instrument, but that is just a masking. They simply masked off that area, painted the instrument, and then removed the tape. So that is just an unpainted bit of mahogany around the entire body. It looks nice, however, up close you do see that the painting job isn't necessarily the most accurate, and there are some little mess-ups here and there. So I would call that definitely average here. The open pore finish is nice, but Sterling by Music Man is offering a lot of really nice solid colors for the Sterling Ray 5 double humbucker. Tonally, I think that the Sterling is a better buy as well. I think that the tone here is a bit muffled, and the tone control itself is rather useless. I am not a fan of the tone control that they have in this preamp. That being said, as I mentioned before, the passive tone controls that they use in the passive instruments like the Sire V5 as well as the Sire U5 are excellent. I've had no issues with those, but in the Sire preamp, there is not much going on there in that tone control. Now in regards to the preamp, I think this gives you a lot of different tonal options, and the boost and cut are very significant, so you can definitely really tailor this tone to your liking. However, you may find yourself on a little tone quest trying to dial in that tone that you had the other day and you lost. So with a lot of great controls comes great responsibility. I personally think that they should have a more focused control setup like they do on the Sterling by Music Man Ray 5 SUV. The 5-way pickup selector on the Ray 5 double humbucker gives you some really great coil selections that dial in a lot of really diverse tones, whereas just utilizing the blend here doesn't really give you that much, and these pickups aren't the best sounding. The rest of the hardware I definitely find above average, with the tuners doing their job no problem. I didn't find any slack or sloppiness in those, and the bridge is adequate as well. So what am I going to rate the Sire M2? Yeah! I'm going to rate this bass 3 claws out of 5. This is a great feeling and well-constructed instrument that is spread a bit too thin in the electronics department, and I think a more focused preamp setup as well as some better pickups would yield some better results here. That being said, the neck on this bass is extremely comfortable and great to play. It's nice to have a 35-inch scale bass at this price point and 19mm spacing as well, for those who appreciate the wider spacing. However, as I said earlier, if you're looking for tighter string spacing or a more classic vibe, you should definitely check out the Sterling by Music Man Ray 5 double humbucker, as well as the Squire classic vibe 5-string 70s jazz bass, because those are also great options in this same price category. I think all three are great basses catering to different audiences, and I think this one just needs a little bit more polish here. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like, subscribe, join our Discord, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about my Sire M2, sent to us from our friend, Bully the Kid. And as always, until we groove again,